through the magic of video editing, now we're in GDB Online. And the first thing you could do is click on Create New Project up here. So I'm going to do that. And the next thing you want to do is in the upper left-hand corner is make sure you're on C++. And once you're set up that way, just to make sure that the compiler works online, I would suggest you do a run. And so those of you who are watching me live should have one window where you've gotten in and you've actually done those things. You've set up a new project and you've run a sample as C++. And down below, you should see things like the program finished with exit code 0, which comes from a statement above. Can anyone turn on their mic and tell me which statement by line number causes that 0 to show up on the screen?
Line 15.
Line 16 is actually the ending curly brace, so I'm not sure how clear that is.
Oh, I said 15.
Yeah, 15, okay, good. So 15 is, so this 0 here comes from that statement, which comes back to what type of data gets returned from our function. We only have one function. It's the special one called main. So if we want to return a different value, we can change that. And I had you try an experience where you put in your own ID number, and you found out that this was too large of a number to print in the storage space of an integer. And so then if you wanted to put in your favorite number, most programmers know what 42 means. Anyone know what the number 42 means? See the 42? 42 is a reference to the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. If you're not familiar with 42, do a Google on it, and Google will tell you about 42. All right, I'm going to get rid of these extra comments at the top because what I'd like you to have in your sample is your name, so I know who did the work. That's one of my rules is to take pride in doing your own work. So put in your name up here, and you should put in the date whenever you're doing one of these activities so that I know where we're at. Oh, actually, it's the 11th. Patriot Day. You guys were so young when this occurred that it's probably just something people reference, but something that anybody who lives through remembers their day, I'm sure. All right, 9/11. And then this is going to be sample if statements. I guess that is a regular L. So here's the deal, as Bill talked about, is we go through ifs all the time. Now we need to compare two different things. Now, if actually returns a value, it's going to return either true or false. And we need to have a condition in the middle we're going to check. Now, yesterday I talked about operators a little bit. And if we want to see if two things are equal, we use two equal signs. That's how it works in C++. So if I said if 1 is equal to 1, do you think that would be true? 1 is always going to be equal to 1. So the next line should occur. Now, an if statement works up until the first semicolon, and then it ends. So if I said, for example, I'm going to print something here, and you can copy the line above if you want to. You can pretty much do whatever you want in there. And by the way, I've noticed there's no going down a line on these samples, so I'm going to add that. And pretty much every C++ statement ends in a semicolon. And so you could almost use this as a model, but kindly remember the \n to go down a line. Okay? Code completion will help you with that. So what we do is if we run this simple version, we technically have an if statement that's kind of senseless. It's always going to say it's true, dude, because it's always going to be true. Now, what if I say if 1 is equal to a different number? Again, let's use 42 as an example. If we make that change in the code and run it again, that line will not show up. It will still exit with the 42, but this line did not happen. So an if statement is basically going to return a value of true or false. And if you get in the idea, remember Yoda talk, that at the end something's going to happen, just put in your mind that an if statement's either going to be true or false. That's all there is to it. And that's why yesterday, when we went through the logic gates, we saw whether the light switch was on or off. All there is to it. Does anybody have any questions so far? Can I copy the link for the online GDB? Sure, I should have it in here. Sorry. Yeah, and don't be afraid to open up your mic and ask a question because, again, my eyes are on the screen. I'm trying to help you out here. So what I'd like you to do is I'd like to see if there's a volunteer that would be willing to share their screen and show us what their online GDB is. I just would like a reality check to see what their screen looks like. Is anybody willing to do that? Just raise your hand, and I can make you a presenter. Everybody's shy. That's okay. If nobody wants to, I'm not going to force you. And so I'm asking for questions. No questions. Nobody wants to show me their screen. That's all good. I'll just press on at this point then. So I do want to just mention, Malcolm, you've got your mic on, so you can hit mute. I'm glad you joined with it. Cool. Heard those clicking keys. That was my clue. All right. Getting back to if statements. Comparing two literals is not necessarily going to be the smartest thing in the world. But let's say we actually ask them. Now in the sample, he shows, you can replay that video, how to compare, for example, an age. And he uses 20 as kind of a thing, and he shows you less than or equal to and greater than. It talks about how if you're going to combine a greater than or a less than, that you can't put the equal first. We talked about a not. So if I change this to if one is not equal, how would I make it a not? Does anybody remember? Talked about it yesterday. It's an operator. Oh, can you guys
not
hear?
not as like if you're to say the statement has to be that specific statement.
Okay. What character do I put into C++ in order to change this from equal to not equal?
The exclamation point.
Perfect. So now it says if 1 is not equal to 42. So even though I've got the same two values there, I've now changed the check that's going to return true or false to saying, is it true that 1 is not equal to 42? And if we run this version and we look at our output,
9 o'clock a.m., 67 degrees Fahrenheit.
Sorry, that's just a little, I should show that to you. Once upon a time, we went to an arcade place. I can't remember the name. It wasn't a Chuck E. Cheese. It was, the name escapes me. But at any rate, my son hit so many of those like reward tickets that he got this. It's just a little disc, and it tells you the time and temperature on the hour. So he didn't want any more, and I brought it here. Helps me keep track of the time, and always reminds me of a fun day with the kids. All right. That was just a sidebar. Back to this. So now we're going to compare two different things. Now, the whole value of computer processing is not comparing things that never change, but things that do change. And I use ammo count a lot because it's an idea that people can relate to. But what we're going to do now is we're going to actually ask the user to give us some information. So I'm going to say, what is your player level? And now I need to bring in the information from the keyboard. Now, I'm not using C in and C out like the sample was. I'm going to use the more professional version that's called scanf. So I'm going to say scanf is going to bring in something. It needs a set of parentheses, just like printf. And then in quotes, we're going to actually put in a special character, which is in the format of an integer. And then after this, sorry, wrong place there, comma on this side. Now I need to say, what do I want to show up there? I want a variable that I'm going to evaluate later. Now, that variable needs to have a name and it needs to have a type. So for player level, do you usually have a player level that's something like true or false? Do you have a player level that might be something like 2.3975? Or do you think you might use a whole number for player levels? Anyone got any ideas? Whole, very good. We're going to go ahead and set up an integer value. and we're going to call it player level. And to start with, we're going to set that value to 0. So go ahead and see if you can set that up in your version so that you've got, starting from the top, an integer variable called player level is assigned the value of 0. Now notice there's just one equal sign, and I want to re-emphasize that one equal sign is an assignment operator. So whatever's on this side gets put into this variable. If you don't tell it player level, it doesn't know that there's a variable. This is a prompt. It's basically putting something on the screen so that the user knows, oh, the computer wants me to enter a number. If you don't program this, then the only thing that happens is the computer sits there blinking like, okay, I'm waiting to bring in a number, and that doesn't help anybody. So now we've got a variable here called player level. I'm going to add that right here. This is the variable name. So I'm going to put in the word player and then level. I can arrow down, highlight it, and auto completion. What do I need to add at the end of this line so it's a valid C++ statement? Thank you. Semicolon is like a period to us, and we need to add that for that to be used in a C++ program. This line is now checking two values that don't make sense to me. Now, I'm going to keep the literal on the left, and that's something I want to demonstrate and have you do a lot. If I'm going to compare player level or any variable to a constant, I have to be careful that I remember to use two different two equal signs for that comparison operator. Otherwise, I take the literal and I can pipe it accidentally very easily into my variable. Do I put a semicolon here? Well, if I do, and let me change this to an equal for a minute because that's going to be more helpful to us. And let's use if 1 is equal to player level, that's true, dude. And I don't have a semicolon here, and I want to see player level is equal to 1. So instead of doing this, I'm just going to say your player level is 1. So if I enter 1, it should say player level is 1. I'm going to go ahead and run this code. Give me a second to process what's going on here. In the format of an integer, bring into player level. It has a warning. So I'm going to go ahead and put in the number 1 down below and press enter. And I caused the system to crash. Interesting. And the reason is I forgot to put one simple character here. And that is a shift 7. It means in the memory location called player level. It's good. It's good for me to show you error messages. Down here, this is a warning first, and then down here, this word core dumped means the system crashed. If this had been in an old Windows system, it would have been the blue screen of death. I mean, it would have just crashed the system. So let me come back in here and try this version with that ampersand there. Now you'll notice in this run, I did not get a warning message. And now I'm going to type the number 1, press enter, and I'm going to make this a little larger so you can see it. It says, what is your player level? I put in a 1, and it says player level is 1. Say again? It's okay. Hey, Aiden, that's okay. All right, so what I've done is in a very simple set of code here, relatively speaking, I know it's new to you, what we've done is we've basically set up a variable. So I'm going to add some comments, which will be helpful to people that don't know what's going on with anything. So this is setting up a memory location, a variable. This is what's called a prompt. It's asking for input. This one is is taking that value and storing the value from the keyboard. Let me get my big fat head out of the way here. It's not really helping us right now. There we go. Yeah. I'm not going to worry about the typing right now. So now I'm over documenting this so that people that are new to it understand. Now this is a comparison statement, and this is the point of it, is we're doing a comparison statement. This is an if statement. It's called a branching statement. It's not a loop. One second. Fan turned on and I got a tickle in the throat. Now let me show you how to break this, how to do it wrong. Just like I did get a compiler message earlier. And here's the deal. I want you to break things because even when I caused the system to crash, nothing bad happened. All it was the computer saying, I don't really understand. Your code that you typed in didn't even make sense. That C3PO character went, yeah, you're talking kind of Yoda-like, but it doesn't make sense. And then the machine would have basically just like not done its job. It happens. And that's how you're going to learn, is by making mistakes. This is an area where I'm going to demonstrate making mistakes. Some of them on purpose. Some of them just are going to happen because I'm human. Oh, okay. So, I just noticed in the chat, people are making a suggestion to save your work, which I'm going to do up here. I'm going to click on the word save. Now, I'm going to call this sample if statement. Click on save. What I find is if I click on a different tab and then come back in here, that's when I have a problem with Online GDB. And if I stay in this tab, things tend to work better. Yes, you're right. Here's what I'm going to do, just in case you need the code. I'm going to be generous here. I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to put it into the public chat. Now, that's going to look really weird over here, but if it's not working for you, you can highlight that code, copy and paste it into your Online GDB, and you've got a starting point. Okay? Does anybody need more time to do that? Just open up your mic and say, yeah, I need a minute. Okay, so that may have helped anybody who needed it. All right, so now I'm going to show you some ways to break it, like I was getting back to. So what if I'm going to plan on entering a different number and not having it be true. So first I'm going to run this and put in number, I'm going to use 42 too much. I'm going to just put in 99. Definitely not 1. It finished, and it did not show me that it was equal to it. So I'm going to run it again with 99, but I'm going to purposely make a mistake. I'm going to forget one of my equal signs. And I'm only going to use 1, and we'll see if the compiler, C3PO, stops me or not. All right, good. This version of the compiler has got a helper for you, and it will prevent you from doing something that you want to make sure you don't do. See where this says left-hand value requires something you can put the value into? Because I have my literal on the left, the compiler says, dude, you can't take a variable and put it into 1. Now, in the first place, this shouldn't be an assignment operator. It should be an equivalence operator with 2 of them. That was the first error. The compiler is stopping us because I put the literal on the left. What if I change this code? So instead, I was saying if player level, I'm just going to highlight this word, hit enter, is equal to 1. Now, let's see what happens. Will it compile with a mistake in the syntax, right? A logical error. I'm sorry, syntax is proper, but it's got a logic error. So in this example, I'm just going to make sure I highlight this part and let you know that this is a logic error that the compiler will allow. A logical error. Because what you're doing will work. You can actually say, if I put 1 into player level, is that true? So true and false work on a light switch principle we covered yesterday. If it was 0, it would be false. Because this is going to be 1, it's going to be true. So first, let me just try to, I'm going to go ahead and run this. And it should get to a point where it asks me, what is my player level? Now I'm going to put 99 in here and hit enter. It says player level is 1, and if I looked in memory, that would be true because what happened here is the 1 got assigned into player level. So let me correct this, and let me make sure I put the 2 equal signs in there. That's the correct way. If I run it again, and I put in my 99, it understands with 2 equal signs, I'm comparing 2 values. But the compiler won't stop it in this order, and that's why, and that's one of the answers that I want you to understand in your comment, is why is it important to have the literal on the left? So right here, you have to put the literal value on the left because the program first tries to find the value trying to compare with the result. Basically, yeah, that's an answer a student did. The question is, why is putting the literal on the left essential? Because if you don't, it's very easy to make a mistake with the assignment operator. As I covered a minute ago, I'm human, you're human. It's a pretty good chance at some point in your life, I've done it so many times, it's too many to count. So yours is ending the program before you can type the player level. Chris, would you be willing to share your screen with us? Oh, look at the top of my head and my screen behind me. That's not going to be good. Just trying to get my camera so it's less in front of my screen and I can see it a little bit better. Oh, now you get an extreme close-up of me. Sorry, guys. I don't have a nice studio like some of you. So, Chris, yeah, I'm just trying to figure out if you're willing to share your screen because it would benefit all of us to see another example. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm actually going to find Chris in the list. I'm going to right-click here. I'm going to click on the options, and I'm going to make him the presenter. So now, Chris, at the bottom of the screen, you're going to see a new icon. You'll see microphone, something, and then you'll see maybe camera you could share. I don't need your camera on, but one of them should let you share your screen. And if you click on that additional icon on the bottom, your screen will get shared. Yes, you got control there. There, now we can see Chris's screen, and let's see here. I can see int player level is assigned the value of 0. Printf, what is your player level? Scanf into, and then player level. If it's equal to player level, printf. So too many arguments for the format. The screen is not easy for me to read. Could you hold down, do you know how to change your zoom level? I believe if you're on a computer, it's Alt-Control zoom wheel or scroll wheel on the mouse if you're on a computer. And if you're on an iPad, it might be, or sorry, on a Chromebook, it's changing your zoom. Oh, somebody else can see it. So %1 should be %I as an integer is the suggestion. Let's go ahead and try that again, please. Go ahead and enter a value. Nice. Awesome. I think if I didn't have my public chat up, I would have had a little bit bigger view. Oh, yeah, that would have helped me. Great. So he stopped sharing his screen. I can go back to sharing mine. Thank you, Chris. That was very helpful, I think, for everybody because they were able to see what's going on. I'm going to take back the presentation thing myself. Take the presenter. I'm now the presenter. Hopefully I'm presentation worthy. There we go. We're back. So this is what we just covered there. What questions do you have for me on that? We went through an example that was pretty long, just to get to the point that the literal needs to be on the left. Anybody have any questions on that? Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to jump back into the on GDB Online, and I'm going to pause this recording. Probably. All right, so now what I've done is I've got this set up so that this line will show up regardless of what the value is. Why does it not want to let me run? Save project as if take 2. Stop. Oh, there we go. Let me run it again. Haha. I'm getting some fun things going on here. thinks it's compiling. Let me do a stop again, if I can. I may have broken it. It is saved. I can download it. Okay. New. Upload a file. Nice. Well, I might as well do new. That's just how it goes sometimes, people. It's all right. Yeah. I'm going to try to be careful and copy the code that I saved before. Now, I might need to reload the system. This is going to be inserted before it, and I'll need to move this line back up where I want it. Got that in there. Let's see if I left this line down here. Paste that there. This is the one. The one above it is conditional. It should add into semicolon. And this is where I'm going to say things like, thanks for playing. I'm just going to simplify it here and try to run it. What's my player level? Something besides 1. Thanks for playing along. Now, what I want to demonstrate to you here is with a semicolon, it's going to end that comparison. And if I run this version and I put in the 55, that semicolon ends the comparison, and it should say player level is 1 right here. Interesting. Maybe I didn't recompile it. Let me stop this. I'm getting some unexpected results. Let me run this again. What's your player level? 55. So player level should get 55, and if it's not equal to 1, oh, I do have the semicolon there. Yeah, so that should show up. 55. Enter. Thanks for playing along. It's not picking up the change that I wanted it to. It's acting as though this semicolon is not there. I'm not able to demonstrate that right now, and I'm not gonna lose my mind over it. But I do want you to understand that the way this should be happening in this private comment is, if you use a semicolon after an if statement, it ends the if statement. Only that one thing happens until the semicolon. But there's a way to do more than one. And you may have seen these around main. From line 15 up to line 7, there's a set of braces. And that is what we call a block of code. If I want to do multiple things here, what I can do is I can use a set of braces. And if I type the first one, in some worlds, it will actually add the second one. So there is a match for it. Now, everything that's in here should only happen conditionally. That's a little bit, rude calling somebody a noob, I guess, but some people call themselves noobs. All right, what we're going to do here is, if their player level is 1, we're going to say, hey, you're a noob. Did you do the tutorial? And now we're going to run this and see if this works with player 1, because I've had some unexpected results in my code. So let me download the code for a second. Oh, cancel that. Run. What's my player level? 1. I'm not getting my changes. I don't know if you can tell what's going on here. It says, yeah, player level is 1, thanks for playing. But I'm not getting the next 2 statements here, which I should.
It's, Mr. Judge, it's still running the main.cpp at the top. It's not running if take 3 right now.
Oh, thank you. Got it. I was on the wrong tab here. Got it. Thank you. Didn't even realize I could have multiple tabs open. What's my player level? Something that's 1. Let's see if we can get 1. That's wild. All right, well, since it's running this set of code, maybe it's me, maybe it's something else. I'm going to add the curly braces in here, not the parentheses. It's the one that's over by the enter key. So I'm going to open up one there. I want to do more than one thing here. Now you'll notice that I'm pretty quick at copy and paste because I've learned I can hold down the shift key, go to the end, and type in Control C, which is a copy, and then I can do Control V, which is a paste. I'm purposely changing the words a little bit so I can tell what version is running. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and try to run this one. Put in my 1. Here we go. Now I know I'm running the code that's in front of me because the specific prompts are there. Player level is 1. So noob. Tutorial will be done. Now, in this structure here, when it's a 1, we'll taunt them a little bit and ask them a question. We could add another if statement here if we wanted to. I want to introduce another useful statement that is combined most commonly with an if, and that is else. An else statement can run one statement or a block of them. So what do you think might be good to say to somebody who isn't a 1? You might want to say something like, well, if they're past level 1, so when would you expect to see now to beat some co-op players? Would you expect that a player level 1 would be able to beat co-op players? The logic I'm employing here is level 1 is your starting point, and that you haven't done the tutorial yet, but maybe you started it. And so you wouldn't want to put them into a co-op situation until they're above 1. So if they are 1, we're going to say, that's okay. Go do the tutorial. And obviously if they haven't done the tutorial, they're not going to get past level 1 in my creation I'm coming up with here. Either hacking or have played the game. All right, that's cool. So here we go. Now, so I'm going to go ahead and play this. I don't expect it. I don't want it to say now to beat some co-op players because they are a level 1. So I'm going to go ahead and run this. It's going to recompile it. I'm going to put in a player level 1. Notice it says now to beat some co-op players. Now, the line before that should say congrats on beating the tutorial, but that doesn't happen. And the reason is, just like I explained with the if statement stopping at the first semicolon, the else clause as well is going to end at the first semicolon. So if I want to do more than 1, check for understanding, how can I group multiple lines of code together? Exactly. So I'm going to use a set of braces to hold them. Now, some people put it right after. I like to have it indented a little bit. That's what we call a style decision. So a coder will have a different style. True story from industry. We brought a guy in that knew the programming language we were using, C#, very well. We knew he had great skills technically. And so in the interview, one of the things that we asked him, because we know people with great technical skills can be very specific, is we asked him, so when you're coding, what do you think the proper way is to indent? And there's a philosophical difference. And so it was just part of the chatting. It was kind of like, so what do you do on your vacations? And, where'd you go to school? What do you like to do in your free time? So when you're coding, how do you like to indent? And the candidate volunteered. He said, well, it's got to be a tab. Some people use spaces, but if I see spaces, I just go ahead and replace them all with tabs. Well, we had another guy in the team that was very well established, and he had the exact opposite philosophy, where if he found tabs, he replaced them with 3 spaces. And we knew that if we had both of these players on the same team, that they would be doing and undoing their own pet peeve over and over in the code. So we wanted to bring them on board, but we knew we couldn't bring them on our team. So we declined to offer the position just based on the fact that we knew the personalities weren't going to match within the team. So I can teach you technical skills, and we're going to practice soft skills, but the reality of it is sometimes those higher decisions come not from your tech skills, because even if you're not sharp in a technology, if you've got some technology, I could probably train you that. But the way we treat others and the way we interact with others has a lot to do with how productive a team is. And that's a reality most people who haven't worked in industry don't understand. All right, getting back to the thing at hand here. Now I've grouped these two, and if it is a number 1, I shouldn't see the invitation to beat some co-op players. I've corrected the code syntactically to match the logic that I want. So it's going to ask me, and I'll put in a 1, and now it says, thanks for playing along. And I don't tell them now to beat some co-op players. And so some of the takeaways I want you to get from here is that we've covered how to construct an if statement, and I've asked you to practice that. I'm hoping you're following along. I can't see your screens, but as we demonstrated, we can have somebody share their screen. All right, I've gone for about an hour. I'd like to give you some hands-on time and an assignment to actually put this to work, but let me get back to this private comment section. What's the deal with using a semicolon after an if statement or an else statement? And to cover that explicitly, I want to make sure you understand that the first semicolon ends that if statement or the else clause. Those are the 2 comments I wanted to see. My apologies, just allergies. All right, let's get back to this. Let's take a look at student work here just to see how many people have turned this in. We're up to 20. Now, I don't need any attachments. All I need to see is private comments. So I can see here people are putting in private comments. And I don't need an attachment. These people have all marked it done. Let me scroll down for a minute. These people have not put in a comment, and they've not marked it as done. So I'm scrolling quickly just to highlight. Now, here's somebody who's not sure, and there's somebody who has an answer, but they haven't marked it as done. So as a quick heads up, when you're done with this, and what I'm trying to highlight with the instructions is do the comment and then mark it as done. It's a common mistake when people are new in the class that they don't think to mark it as done, especially if it was just a survey or a private comment, Google form. Typically, when they add an attachment, they go, oh yeah, add the attachment, mark it as done, that's a submission. Well, even if I'm just asking for a comment or some kind of a response, kindly remember to mark it as done. Okay? Matt's letting me know he can't log into his PowerSchool. There is a helpline that will help with that. And basically, if you're logged onto your Chromebook with your Tech Campus credentials, then you should go to the Tech Campus website and click on that P, and PowerSchool should basically open up for you right away. That's my understanding, but I can't play as a student. So, seeing the response here. And I welcome the questions. That's fine. If you need to log in, then the format for that, let me see if I can simulate that for us. I am sharing my screen. I'm going to open a new window. I'm going to go to the Tech Campus website. And I'm going to pretend I'm a student. I probably should have opened myself up in a window. PowerSchool's in the upper right-hand corner here with the P. I would think it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then your password. If that doesn't work, then you'll need to add @student.techcampus.org. So I'll be candid. I don't log in as a student, but it's either needs this part added, same password, or it's just the number. Make sure it's the Tech Campus ID and not your homeschool ID. If that doesn't get you past it, then I'm going to suggest you contact the helpline here at Tech Campus because it's outside of my area of expertise, and I don't want to mislead you. All right, getting back to where I'm at here, this completes this in-class activity, which I tried to kick out by having you pre-review some information. And I'd like to ask, what questions do you have on if statements so far?